Hey guys, hope you're all doing well and that you had a great week. To my house guests, come in, make yourselves at home, make yourselves comfortable. If you're visiting my channel for the first time and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i. Welcome to my place. Welcome to episode 3 of Coffee Chats, a series of alternative perspectives. The first thing I'm going to ask you, what are you guys drinking today? I must say you are very impressive with your drink choices. I saw the comments under the last episode and one of you had apple cider vinegar with some other elements. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but that sounded very interesting. One of you was drinking lemonade. And one of you had a drink containing ginger and turmeric. And I had to comment on that comment because I actually add those two spices to my first morning drink. So yeah, I was pleased to see that. So you guys are very, very impressive. Let me know what you're drinking today. And if it's tea, what type of tea are you drinking? Today I'm drinking Red Bush. And it's quite appropriate given the title of this episode. So before we get into today's video, I wanted to thank you for the feedback from episode 2. I really do appreciate your responses. And I'm going to disclose something here. Before I'd even made the video, I mentioned to Kathy when she kind of told me about her dilemma, I had recommended that she see a therapist because what she was dealing with, or what she is dealing with, is not I think it goes beyond the scope of what we would call normal in terms of how she sees herself, and a lot of you picked up on that. And I didn't disclose it deliberately because I didn't want to influence what you guys were going to say, but some of you actually confirmed what I had already told her. So it just goes to show that the advice that you've given her is sound. And because she didn't take what I'd said initially, it took you guys to actually say what you said before she reconsidered. She's now booked sessions with the therapist, and the first session is due to start at the beginning of next month. So when I say to you that your contributions are valuable because they're constructive and respectful, this demonstrates the power that you guys have as subscribers, as contributors. So please do not underestimate the power that you have. When you come into a community like this, and we're all sharing our experiences, whether you know it or not, you're actually benefiting someone who you will never meet, who you will never know. So thank you once again. Obviously, you guys who watched the last episode, you know that Kathy's not her real name. I gave her a pseudonym to protect her identity. But Kathy, she's extremely grateful and she wanted me to pass on the thanks. So, with that said, I'm going to now show you 2 of the comments that I selected just to show you how much thought has gone into your response. This comment is from Wendy7404. Oh, Wendy is the person who said she had apple cider vinegar, lemon and Himalayan salt water. So Wendy goes on to say, I only realise now at 49 that I had different body insecurities at different phases, from early teenage to now, when I'm totally confident in who I am and my body. At 12 I got burnt and had skin transplantation. This was on my neck and the scar totally took my confidence. I then shot up at 13 and I was a UK size 8 shoe but skinny. This gave me attention I didn't want on top of the scars I wanted to hide. In my 20s, when most of my friends envied my height and skin, which has always been unbelievably smooth and clear, I was insecure about my hourglass figure. It caused a lot of unwanted attention from heterosexual men. In my 30s, I was concerned about my overall weight, which wasn't bad now when I look back. Mid-40s, I started gaining serious weight even on the face, and hyperpigmentation showed up for the first time. I took serious steps of knowing my body and what is good for it. I am now at peace with every inch of me and love it too. My skin and body are that of when I was in my 20s, just by eating well and knowing what skincare regime works for me. Thank you for this. Oh, thank you, Wendy. This comment comes from Patricia Starkey 4951, and Patricia says, I feel for Kathy. I want to tell her first of all that she is loved for who she is, not for what she looks like. I am not a professional, but a mental health therapist may help, but one needs to open up and be vulnerable. I think Kathy has already opened up by expressing herself with you. Avoid mirrors and practice on positive self-affirmations. Surround yourself with positive people. It is very, very hard to summon the energy for these types of activities. It is energy draining when your self-esteem is negative. It is a real struggle to pull yourself up and out of a dark place. Give yourself grace and space to be your beautiful, changing self. Oh, thank you, Patricia. Okay, guys, so in today's episode, I wanted to talk to you about rejection. Now, as a very inquisitive person, if you've watched enough of my videos, you know that I don't take things at face value. That includes traditions that we've grown up with as people of culture. Let me just say that. And you guys, some of you guys all know what I mean. And with things that we're brought up saying and have heard said, such as this phrase, he's not my cup of tea, she's not my cup of tea, it's not my cup of tea. I've always wondered where that came from. And in case you're wondering, also, I decided to show you where that originated from. Where does the saying, not my cup of tea, come from? Well, according to BritEnglishSchool.com, this expression has its roots in Britain at the beginning of the 20th century. However, before that, at least as far back as the mid-18th century, the affirmative version was already in use. Actually, as a cup of tea meant acceptability, it was the name given to a favoured friend. And according to knowyourphrase.com, if something is not your cup of tea, then that means you do not like it. A few weeks ago, I came across a young YouTuber called, well, younger than me, a YouTuber called Holly Shepherd. And just to give you a bit of context, from what I can remember, she'd approached a brand to do a collaboration and she was rejected. So I'm just going to play you a few snippets of her video where she expresses her feelings about being rejected.
I've never been turned down for a lot of things. I mean, yes, I faced rejection with other aspects of my life, but anyways, so it may not seem like a big deal, and it really is not a big deal, but my point that I want to get at is that we can't be everyone's cup of tea, because if you are everyone's cup of tea, well, your teacup is going to go empty really quick, because everybody's going to want you, everybody's going to be on you, and it prevents you from connecting with the right people and being able to focus more on the right people and the right situations for you, the right things for you, whatever that may be, places, platforms, etc. So in that being said, it did kind of make me a little bit sad. But yeah, my photos and my videos are not always the super highest of quality, so that probably plays a role as well. But again, this is just the conclusion I came to, but takeaway is that we cannot be everyone's cup of tea. You don't want to be everyone's cup of tea, and I am ultimately thankful for this denial, because I know if I really truly wanted to, I could upload some things and probably get approved for their program. But, you know, it would still be no guarantee that I would even make anything from the program anyway, because there never is a guarantee for the most part. And, like, again, I'm just not used to rejection, and, you know, so it is a little weird for me. I think it's important for people to experience rejection, but I just haven't experienced a whole lot of it. And that is one good aspect of my life.
I know for a fact that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. At this age, I'm glad I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But 30, 40 years ago, I couldn't have said that, because I was a chronic people pleaser. I had the disease to please. I wanted everyone to like me. I've always been told I'm a bit weird, I'm kind of odd. And one of the reasons, someone actually said to me directly, I think we were at a function, it wasn't a family function. It was just a function, a social function, social gathering. And when a reggae track came on, people were jumping up and, you know, all excited. And I didn't get up and dance. And someone approached me and said, oh, why are you not dancing? And in my head, I thought, well, why do I have to dance? Because you want me to dance. And I simply said, I don't like reggae. And they looked at me with like disgust, as if to say, they actually said, oh, you don't like reggae? I'm like, no. And the remark as they left me was, oh, you're so weird. Now, you guys may think the same thing, because I grew up in a Jamaican household. I'm a product of Jamaican parents, and music is embedded in me from the point of view of my dad used to play music in the house regularly, especially on a Saturday afternoon. You know, I remember him having the music full blast for hours, like literally the whole afternoon up until early evening. And the TV was on, but the volume of the TV was turned down, and I never understood that. Unfortunately, I can't ask him about that because he's no longer with us, but I always found that really funny. If you've also grown up in a Jamaican household, chances are that you will have heard reggae all through your childhood, and you most probably love it. My parents used to take my sister and I to the Notting Hill Carnival every year throughout the 70s, and the steel drums didn't move me, steel pans didn't move me. In fact, actually, as a child of the 70s, my preference was Steely Dan as opposed to steel pans. And to this day, Steely Dan is one of my favourite bands. Don't ask me why. I have no explanation. And in fact, I don't have to have an explanation. And I don't have to apologise for that. That is just me. So I know that I'm not everyone's cup of tea, because I don't... For some people, I'm not black enough. Let's just say that. Whatever that means, because it blows my mind. I don't know where these expressions come from when people say that. It's like, oh, you're not black enough because you don't like a certain type of music, or you don't like a certain type of food, or you don't dress a certain way. You're not black enough. It's not until I bought my first property at the age of 23 that I actually had time to myself to process my thoughts. You know, no one else to speak to really, because I was living on my own. And through that period of about 5 years before I got married, I had time to ascertain the things that I like, the things that I don't like, the things I'll tolerate, and the things I will never tolerate. I had the time and the space to do that. What I noticed is it was like a dark cloud oppressing me. I always was in a low mood because I felt unfulfilled, because I was not being validated by my peers. I can say that now. I didn't realise it at the time. So I remember having a conversation with myself one day. I was sat at my dressing table. I think this was after I came in from work, and I sat down at my dressing table and I just had a word with myself. And I remember saying, the question I asked myself as I looked at myself in the mirror, Why do you care what these people think? So through a process of breaking down the answer to this question, I started to determine things like they didn't help you to save the deposit for this place. They didn't help you to fill out the mortgage application. They were not instrumental in you acquiring this particular property. They are not responsible for paying your bills. They are not responsible for buying your food. They are not responsible for maintaining your lifestyle. That is your sole responsibility. So why on earth do you care what these guys think? And it was at that point that I realized immediately my perspective changed, and consequently I gained my self-confidence, self-acceptance, and determined that I was not going to allow certain people into my space. They had to stay away from me. It wasn't an easy process, but it was a journey of self-discovery, because I ended up really liking myself. For some of you, that may not make sense, but for those of you who've been on a similar journey, I think you'll understand what I mean. This is another example of, even when you're a high-profile individual, you're not immune from experiencing rejection. This article is from businessinsider.com, and it was written by David Gardner of the Evening Standard, published on December 6, 2017. Meghan Markle opens up about insecurities she battled at the beginning of her career. I wasn't pretty enough, thin enough. Meghan Markle revealed how she battled soul-sucking insecurities to break through in Hollywood, where she was branded not thin enough, not pretty enough. In an article written 2 years ago, Prince Harry's fiancée, now 36, described the turning point in her struggle to make a mark in the entertainment industry. Although predating her relationship with Prince Harry, the article explains for the first time how she found the confidence that set her on the path to fame and her royal romance. Writing in Darling magazine about her early days auditioning for roles, Ms. Markle revealed she drove a beat-up Ford Explorer Sport that rattled like a steamboat engine, with front doors that were jammed, so she had to crawl in through the boot. I was in my early 20s, still figuring so much out and trying to find my value in an industry that judges you on everything that you're not versus everything that you are. Not thin enough, not pretty enough, not ethnic enough, while also being too thin, too ethnic, too pretty the very next day, she explained. I would drive to auditions and park at the back of the parking lot, far from the eyes of anyone who could see me unlocking the trunk and crawling into my car through its only feasible entry point. I would play it off as though I was looking for something, reaching so deep for something that my car almost sucked me in to get it. Much like my experience with Hollywood, to be honest. Struggling, climbing hurdles, searching for something that I couldn't even see, and just reaching for it every single day, she wrote. Just as Los Angeles-born Ms. Markle's dreams appeared to be unapologetically impossible, she met someone who would change her life. Hollywood casting director April Webster, famous for her work on hits like Star Wars, Lost and Mission Impossible. I had never met her before, and at my very first audition for her, she stopped me mid-scene and said so simply, "You need to know that you're enough," Ms. Markle recalled. She saw all that self-doubt beaming through the self-tanner and excessive blush. You couldn't pay for a therapy session this good, and that moment, for me, was a wake-up call, she continued. Soon she had been cast as Rachel in a pilot of a new show called Suits. In an attempt to gain full acceptance, this woman was willing to pack up her entire life, move across the world to support her husband, his family, and an institution that reaches far beyond the United Kingdom. However, although she was rejected, she managed to make her mark in a much bigger, much better way. without any restrictions, without anyone telling her what nail colour she's permitted to wear, without anyone telling her how she's supposed to style her hair, whether she can go bare-legged or not, who she can collaborate with, and who she can speak to. And if she were not rejected, she would still be restrained in an institution which is slowly, in my opinion, becoming outdated. Because really, you know, just expanding the conversation a bit more, she would have been the bridge between the royal family and the Commonwealth, because she is representative of the Commonwealth. But because they've rejected her, the institution is kind of on a slippery slope. And I've said this before in earlier videos, and people, you know, they don't want to agree, which is fine. You don't have to agree. But ask Barbados why they no longer wanted to be part of the Commonwealth. Ask Australia why they're considering becoming a republic. The same for Jamaica, the same for Canada, the same for many Commonwealth countries. All because they rejected this woman. Let's go back to the beginning of this discussion when I asked you, as I have been asking you in every episode, what are you drinking? If you're drinking tea, what type of tea are you drinking? Is it Earl Grey? Is it Builder's tea? Is it English breakfast? Is it Red Bush like I'm drinking today? Builder's tea, for those of you who don't know, it's a term that's been adopted by us in Britain, I guess. I don't know whether you have it elsewhere in other countries, but basically when builders come to do work on your home, or any tradesman, and you offer them a cup of tea, it's in a regular mug. You just put, you know, a regular tea bag, milk, sugar, and it's quite a nice tan colour. Builder's tea. It's builder's tea because they have copious amounts. It seems they spend more time drinking tea than actually doing work. I mean, I'm generalising and I'm being sarcastic, but I guess that's where the phrase has come from. Builder's tea is very common. You know, a lot of people like the taste of that tea. When you consider other teas now, more specialised teas such as Earl Grey, Red Bush, some herbal teas, they're more of an acquired taste and they're a higher price point. So when someone says to you, "You're not my cup of tea," take it as a compliment. Don't get upset. Take it as a compliment, because it means that you're an acquired taste and you're valued at a higher price point. You don't want everyone to have access to you. You want to be relatively exclusive, and those who will accept you like you. Someone that doesn't like Red Bush is not going to drink Red Bush. Someone that doesn't like herbal tea is not going to drink herbal tea. I'm glad that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm glad that I'm packaged the way that I am. I'm glad I have my own way of viewing things. I'm glad that I have my own perspectives, and I don't necessarily have the perspective of many others, which means that oftentimes I go against the grain. However, in going against the grain, it helps me to carve out my own path in where I want to go, despite the judgment, despite the criticism that comes along with that. I know that I'm enough. I know that I have worth. I know that I have value, and the same applies to you too. So when someone says to you, "You're not my cup of tea," have a big smile on your face and take it as a compliment. Things like this, you don't always have to look at them as a negative. There's always a positive in these things. So let's look at the 10 benefits of rejection. Number 1, rejection motivates us to do better. Number 2, rejection reminds us that we're human. Number 3, rejection teaches us patience. Number 4, rejection causes us to explore different paths. Number 5, rejection forces us to reevaluate ourselves. Number 6, rejection makes us reconsider our goals. Number 7, rejection creates opportunities for change. Number 8, rejection gives us new ways of looking at things. Number 9, rejection makes us stronger. And number 10, rejection is opportunity for growth. So guys, as I wrap up this episode, what are your experiences of rejection? If you feel comfortable enough to share, what are some situations that you've gone through where you've experienced full-on rejection? Has rejection been the reason why you feel paralyzed not to move on in your career, not to change your relationship status? Or has it just made you paralyzed in general, where your life is just stagnant now, where you can't see any way forward, where you're just at a dead end? What advice would you give to someone in today's culture of hypersensitivity, cancel culture, and lack of empathy? Let me know in the comments what you think, and remember, I'm going to select comments from 2 contributors to be featured in the next episode. So guys, I hope you found this informative. If this video provoked your thoughts in any way, give it a thumbs up. And if you've not yet become a house guest, all you need to do is hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch up in the next episode of Coffee Chats.